Have you ever overwhelmed yourself before? I didn't ask, have you ever been overwhelmed? I asked, have you ever overwhelmed yourself? Meaning, have you ever done anything up here that led to you feeling overwhelmed? Because I just did it last night. I went to go pick up my son from work, and what ended up happening was my right leg, my right foot in particular, fell asleep, and I couldn't feel the pedal, and it made it difficult to accelerate and brake and all that stuff, and I got really, really nervous and a little panicky, and I kind of catastrophized the whole thing. And the reason that was a big issue is because it is a symptom of my connective tissue disorder worsening. And I kind of freaked out and I catastrophized it, and I thought, woe is me, this is awful, it means I can't drive, and so on and so forth. And I started telling myself the story of it, how bad it is, how difficult it is to deal with, how I don't know how I'm going to deal with it as it gets worse. And I went to bed with this overwhelming sense of how bad it's getting. And when I woke up this morning, I was still fretting a little bit over it. And then as I was meditating this morning to try and kind of find a better balance within myself, this little voice in my head said, wait a minute, what the heck is it? Can we get some clarification on what it is? And as I started looking at it, it seemed a little void of definition. It is something we hadn't taken time to get any clarity on. We just knew that it was this big thing that we were dreading and saw as a threat, but it was like this nameless, faceless creature. So as I reflected on it more, I figured, okay, that it could be the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is the syndrome that the condition that I deal with. It could be an overwhelming sense of responsibility that I have, that I now have to learn how to be more creative in satisfying my responsibilities with the issues that I now have, so on and so forth. But what I mostly realized was how I was getting trapped in the all or nothing thinking that is part and parcel with the ADHD I have the wonderful privilege of living with. And because of that, I realized that the it was an all-encompassing view of the lifespan impact of the foot numbing issue, meaning how every opportunity I might have to drive would be impacted by this potential numbing of the foot. Man, that's a huge it. That's like looking at every possible speed bump I might have in life and considering that every time I get behind the wheel. Could you imagine how daunting that would be? Or thinking, man, I need to be prepared for the possibility that I would have to deal with all this stuff every time I get behind the wheel. Man, that's crazy making. But what if my it was the speed bump in front of me? Wow, how much overwhelm is going to come from that? That's the thing I forgot to do. Because I went to an all it instead of a small it. So when I had a little bit more perspective, I had a good night's sleep. Or so I think I did, I'm not sure. But when I woke up, I had a little bit more clarity. The meditation helped even more. And I was able to realize that I made my it a really big it. I made it a size that nobody could reasonably deal with. And I needed to start smaller. I needed to realize that if I dealt with my it that was more immediate, present, in front of me, it's not overwhelming. It's not life-ending. It's certainly not going to rob me of all my joy. Is it going to be extremely inconvenient at times? You bet your ass it's going to be. Am I going to maybe complain sometimes? You betcha. I'm going to try and work my way out of that, find more gratitude. But at the moment, I'm still kind of griping about it. But I'll find my way because that's how I roll. But at the moment, I have better perspective than I did. And I wanted to make sure I shared that with you. So thank you for coming along on my journey. And let's see where we go from here.